Hey everyone, great to be here. It's just Kayleigh today and it's been a little bit of a while since we last posted a video. Today I wanted to talk about this book, actually just a sentence from this book. It's called 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. And if you haven't heard of Jordan Peterson, he's an acclaimed clinical psychologist who's influenced the modern understanding of personality with topics from the Bible to romantic relationships to mythology, etc., etc. So I find him fascinating, the topics he talks about, and also the way he talks about modern life, love, and all of those topics I just mentioned. He's amazing. So if you haven't watched anything from him, I recommend 100. But yesterday I was reading through the book and I'm trying to finish it this week. But the sentence that I found really helpful is where he says to make the habit of asking yourself habitually, what could I do that I would do to make life a little better? And what he's trying to get at with the what could I do and that I would do is asking yourself what things in your life are maybe making you unhappy, or maybe they're making you slightly uncomfortable, that you could do something about. So if you have, for example, a very messy room, you might ask yourself this question: what could I do that I would do that could make life a little bit better? Well, you could start off with saying, well, I could clean the whole thing, and that takes, 4 hours or whatever. But then the second part of that question is, would I do that? Am I going to spend the 4 hours it takes to clean the room? Well, if the answer is no, then Jordan is suggesting that you don't try and force yourself to do that, but that you rather take a scaled back approach and choose something that not only you could do, that you're capable of, but also that realistically you would do. That realistically you will do if you were to ask yourself so nicely to do that thing. Hopefully I'm making sense. He explains things much more clearly in the book. And if you want to look, it's on page 109, by the way. But I just found that really, really helpful because I think all of us have pressure from multiple places, whether that's our parents, our friends, and also ourselves, to ask quite a lot of ourselves. We set really high standards. We want to do really admirable things like get a degree, or even something like change the direction of our society in regards to the environment or racism or really important topics. And sometimes we get ourselves a bit too bogged down because although the requirements that we're placing on ourselves are honourable, sometimes we don't have the resources to actually do something about those large topics. And even if we do have the resources, sometimes they're not really steps that our whole body and our whole self is really willing to take, and not willing to take without sacrificing a whole lot of happiness and contentment elsewhere, which means that ultimately those desires, those large, intimidating things that we ask ourselves to do, even if we were to do them, they would somehow end up destroying us or holding us back in other areas. So I really found it helpful to be so honest with listening to myself that I don't just ask, what could I do? Because I could quit my job and pick up rubbish on the streets all day. I could, but would I? No, I won't. But what could I do and what would I do? If I walk past some rubbish, I'll pick it up and I'll put it in the bin. And I can ask myself to do that. I can do that happily. I can do that with a sense of believing it's worthwhile and it's reasonable. And Yes. So those are my thoughts on the topic, but I hope that if you do have a moment of peace in your day, which doesn't come too frequently for everyone, I hope that in that moment of peace you could ask yourself what areas of life are not at the best place or are causing you discomfort, and then ask yourself, what could I do that I would do that would make life a little bit better. So thank you for listening, and if you made it this far, I will say please consider subscribing, because my husband Emmanuel and I post videos on this channel regularly, and if you like this one, you might like the others. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.